making livelihood out of the areas that was previously the illegal operation of the company planting the oil palm in a areas that is not allowed for oil palm. Around 308 to speak directly with the farmers, so to get the first-hand information.
So what do we do when we meet an elephant?
Yeah.
Sengaja loncat atau jatuh nih bang? Hah? Sengaja loncat atau jatuh? Pleset ya? Ikut orangnya. Tempatnya enggak terlalu besar. Enggak, Pak, atau perlu nanya tentang kawasan? Pak ikut aja.
Ini ada artinya. Oh, kalau emang. Tapi hati ya Pak.
Ya, udah ada Bang.
Because goat herders don't like being yelled at. If we're too nice to them and don't help them understand that maybe they walk all over us, they have the power, they have the money. And even if we talk in some other way to them, maybe they just ignore it. Birth of the tier 2. So we said, let's make an organisation to do this. And so we think, what should we call it? And we actually called it the Tropical Forest Club. So around them and comfort them. Yeah, it's all right. Because the NGOs were, you're evil, you're bad. And it was terrible. They were attacking them. And the company was, we think we're doing a good job. And so somewhat was like just to reassure them, you are doing a good job, but these things could be better. Should we work or not? Okay. And then along the way, as we started to work, I talk about crossing the bridge. So, they're on and below is a big ravine. So you say, come on, I come with you. Let's go. We come over the bridge together. So we start, and then you get about there, and they look down, and they see the crocodile, and they panic. So they start going back. No. You said we're going over the bridge together. Come on, I'm with you. The NGOs can talk to me. I'll protect you. Let's go. Come on. I'm summarising. There's a lot of work to do this, but that's what happens. So the communities are now saying to the illegal loggers, Asia Pulp and Paper, very large paper company, in August 2000, chop down some wood and make some furniture and make some plywood. But they don't necessarily think long term. And if we help them to think long term and sustainable forest management for wood, this is why we got very strongly into the FSC, maybe that forest will be there in the future. And if we talk to the palm oil plantation companies and say, okay, the plywood industry's been through here, leave this beautiful forest, let it come back, and put your plantations over there, where it's been destroyed. And we could work together. And this has always been my philosophy, and not that the goat herder was evil, but that the goat herder was someone we needed to talk to. And I think the NGOs always felt, and often attacked, the companies as being evil. And I never saw that. They're just people that we need to talk to and help maybe understand the long term. But how do we talk to goat herders? How do we talk to these people? Do we do this to them and tell them what they can and can't do? It's not nice, right? You don't feel good. And that's what happens. You can't do this, you can't do that, and if you do it, we're going to campaign against you and we're going to do terrible things. Doesn't feel good, right? But what if I say, please goat herder, we need to protect these trees. Now, some goat herders will say, okay, and some goat herders will say, well, I've got the power here, I've got the concession, right? You've got the license from the government, this is my land now. So you community can go away. And that happens too. So, do we make laws to say, okay, goat herder, you've got your concession, but you need to do this? Some goat herders say, okay, we follow the law. Other goat herders say, well, here's some money. You can turn the other way, and I'm going over here to do what I wanted to do. So we have all these complex human interrelationships between government, NGOs, communities, companies. And it seems to me that the only way we're going to make progress in any of this is if we talk to each other in a respectful way. Because goat herders don't like being yelled at. If we're too nice to them and don't help them understand that maybe they walk all over us, they have the power, they have the money. And even if we talk in some other way to them, maybe they just ignore us. So the tragedy is we have a long journey to go as people trying to not only protect forests, but to help people live a better life. And as you've seen from the projects yesterday, the two are very linked. And so people sometimes think, why are you doing chili farming to protect the Leuser ecosystem? Well, as we learned yesterday, they're very linked, because if we can help those communities make a better living by not coming in and destroying the forest, there's an opportunity for us to let this forest come back. And maybe then government policies will change, and maybe we can educate the children. As Eric was talking yesterday and we talked in the car this morning, maybe the children can have a different way. I just heard someone talking about not so many hunters, right, in France. The world is changing. We know climate change is coming. Maybe this is our time to go there and starting to understand that practices in the past haven't been so great. So maybe this is our moment to turn the Titanic, turn the ship around. So this is always the philosophy of Earthland Foundation, as I started, to work with people, not to shame people. Sometimes the shaming gets them to the table. The NGOs do play an important role sometimes. It wakens up people to problems. But usually they're pain and they're suffering because they've been shamed, and our role is to say, it's okay. You're not a bad person. Let's talk about what we can do. If we talk with respect and compassion, we can find a way forward. This is my experience in many ways, and my hope for the future. And right at the start I mentioned, that I think the history of TFC goes back hundreds of years, because Richard St. Baker, which was the old man on the radio, the man of the trees as they called him, he was 89 when I listened to him. And he passed on to me this inspiration to try and protect forests. But I know from books that have been written about him that he was inspired to protect forests by his father, who also lived a long life. So there's probably 200 years. I'm 55. He died at age 91. His father was 78. So the TFT goes back at least a couple of hundred years in my thinking. And it's a philosophy that's been passed from Richard St. Baker's father to him and now to me, and I know to other people too. And we don't know what happened to Richard St. Baker's grandfather and his father and his grandfather, because maybe this is 1,000 years of philosophy, trying to work with people, which is very much St. Baker's work, trying to work with communities, work with industry, to inspire them to do good things. So that really is the philosophy of TFT. It's the story of TFT in a very short way. Of course, there's many cases along the way. We can talk about this company or that company, how they hated us and they loved us and how this happened. Many stories, and part of my job now is to write some of those stories and share them, which is what I'm trying to do. But that really is the essence of the journey that has brought us all here today. You guys are part of that journey. You guys are investing in projects that are helping farmers grow chili to protect forests, helping farmers plant fruit trees to protect forests. So you guys and your companies are part of that journey too. And we hope that all of the idea of coming to the forest and coming to visit the communities and the projects is so that you can see what you're doing, what your money's doing and what your support is doing. But in the future we can do more, and we can help make that relationship that we have with you guys go deeper, and we can help spread that throughout your company, looking at other commodities and other we were talking with Miriam about how we can inspire people in your companies to maybe do what they can do when they go home at night, not necessarily leave them to this project. How we can spread the word of caring for the environment, caring for people. So that's what's brought us here today. At least 200-year tradition has brought us to this place. So we're very glad to be here with you and to answer any questions and to share being in this forest together with you guys today. So thank you very much. Thank you. There you go. So I was 15, so I still had to go through university, and of course I didn't even know forestry was a degree or a career before I went into that and listened to the radio, went into the lounge and listened to the radio. So straight away, of course, I didn't go and get on Google because it didn't exist there. But I went to school and I said, "What's this?" And so the teacher said, "Yes, you can go here or here." So I went and did forestry school, and I got a job in Tasmania. I worked in forestry in Tasmania, in the government forest service, which is very interesting because very special forest there as well. Big, massive trees, 100-metre tall trees that have been logged very heavily by the forest industry for generations. And my grandfather was one of the loggers when he was young, in fact. And so I learnt about that, but I always then I was standing between the forestry company, the government forestry office, and the NGO. And I found myself in this strange place of standing between the two. I could talk to both. And this started to become a bit of a theme in my career. And I was lucky enough to be selected for a scholarship to Oxford, where I went and studied for a year, met my wife. And when I came back, I was asked to go to Vietnam to work on an aid project. And this was a great experience for me because I really wanted to test whether I was okay to live outside Australia. You know, I grew up in rural Australia. I thought I was, but there I was in the Mekong Delta. It was a great experience. And what I saw there was a company coming in. I was researching the best way to get trees back. And this company came in, ignored everything, did everything that I'd learnt was wrong, and after 6 months failed. And in the process destroyed about, 5,000 hectares of land in the process. And I was saying, here's how you do it. No, we need to move quickly. And that really brought home to me that this company came in wanting to do a good thing in establishing plantations, but they were completely blind to environmental and social considerations. And so I need to try and do a goat herder. Here's a goat herder. And so I went back to being a consultant, but all of my clients, the private sector clients, my colleagues were working for the government and things like that, but I was talking to companies and I felt very comfortable doing that. So then they sent me to the UK to open an arm of the consulting company there, and at the time, I went there in 1997, but in 1998, across Europe, a huge garden furniture campaign exploded. The furniture was coming from Vietnam, mass-produced in Vietnam and shipped to Europe, but all of the wood was coming from Cambodia. Very badly destroyed forest, human eye producers, trucked over the border into Vietnam, made into furniture and sent to Europe. And I was already working on that with B&Q, which is a UK do-it-yourself chain, to try and help them fix their garden furniture. So I already knew about it. So when it all blew up, WWF and others knew that I was working on this. So they called me and said, can you help? This was in the summer of 1998, the European summer of 1998. So I went to Vietnam and I met the company and I said, look, this is what you need to do. So, in the simple terms, you need to find a forest, put it in your factory, and then sell it to the things in Europe, the companies in Europe, the brands in Europe will sell it. So then we can make traceability from the forest to your factory, to the stores, your customers. So they were the company here. And I had a forest that I'd already identified, but I needed someone to fund the work to get that forest sustainably managed. So they said, we'll do that. We'll put a levy on our furniture. So 6 of the retailers and 1 supplier put a 2% levy on the furniture, and that made about $800,000 that then was to fund this project and others. And that was the birth of the TFT. So we said, let's make an organisation to do this. And so we think, what should we call it? And we actually called it the Tropical Forest Trust. So it started out as the Tropical Forest Trust because we were only working in the tropics. And someone said to me, why don't we call it the Forest Trust? I said, well, let's walk before we can run. Let's see if it works. And we started to get forests. We got the first forest certified in Peninsular Malaysia, up in Ipoh. And then someone called me and said, could you come to the Congo Basin? No forest certified in the Congo Basin. The whole industry there saying, we hate forest certification, we hate the FSC, it's the devil. And so they called me and said, could you come and talk to us? The biggest forest concession company, 1.4 million hectares. And I went down there and again it was Charlene, you won't mind if I do. It was like this, you had to put your arm around them and comfort them. It's all right. Because the NGOs were, you're evil, you're bad. And it was terrible, they were attacking them. And the company was, we think we're doing a good job. And so some of it was like just to reassure them, you are doing a good job, but these things could be better. Shall we work on those? Okay. And then along the way, as we started to work, I talk about crossing a bridge. So, they're on this side of the bridge, and they need to get